Hello everybody, my name is Rainer, this is my booktube channel, Rainier Books. I'm based in Stockholm, Sweden, and today it is time for a single review. Is it the first of the year? Maybe it is. The book that I want to talk about is by Patrick Radden Keefe, an American investigative journalist, and it's called The Empire of Pain, The Secret History of the Sackler Dynasty, published by Doubleday in April 2021. In 2017, investigative journalist Patrick Radden Keefe wrote an article in The New Yorker, which was called The Family That Built an Empire of Pain. And this article was so successful, so talked about, that, well, it became a book a couple of years later. 560 pages is The Secret History of the Sackler Dynasty. The author, Patrick Radden Keefe, today he is 47 years old. He has studied at Columbia University in New York. He has studied in England, at Cambridge University, sorry, not Oxford, Cambridge University, and in London in the schools or at the schools of economics, and even at Yale Law School. He is one of the United States' most prolific investigative journalists and has written and researched on a wide range of topics. In February of 2013, he published an essay called A Loaded Gun in The New Yorker, the story of biology professor and mass shooter Amy Bishop, who killed 3 and injured 3 people in an attack at the University of Alabama in Huntsville. Radden Keefe has written about the capture of Mexican drug kingpin Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. He has a remarkable book about Irish history called Say Nothing, a true story of murder and memory in Northern Ireland from 2018 that got raving reviews by the critics. The Stories of the Sackler is not the first book about the horrible opioid crisis that came upon the United States. The opioid crisis had started in the 1990s with enormous medical, social, psychological, and economic consequences for the medical and non-medical use of these medications in the whole country, in all of the 50 states. Opioids are highly effective against massive pain like cancer or people with enormous back pain, but they're also very highly addictive. In the years between 1999 and 2016, it is estimated that 453,000 Americans died of opioids. Millions got addicted. Around 100 million Americans were affected, and allegedly half of the population knows someone or knew someone who was affected by the opioid epidemic. Even if American pharma companies exported their products to other parts of the world, about 80% of the global supply of opioids is consumed in the United States of America. One of the most well-known of the drugs is OxyContin, shortly called Oxy, developed by a company called Purdue Pharma LP, a company owned by the Sackler family. Patrick Radden Keefe's book tells the story of this filthy rich family that is estimated and has a net worth altogether of $10.8 billion. Arthur, Mortimer, and Raymond Sackler were the first generation born in the United States, Jewish immigrants born to their father Isaac in the US. All of them became physicians, and Arthur, the oldest son, built the family empire, owning first a company that pioneered the technique of advertising medication directly to doctors. It was Arthur who started the family's philanthropic activities, first by collecting huge amounts of Chinese arts and historical items that was later donated to museums. His brothers, Raymond and Mortimer, invested in a company called Purdue, and the research of producing opioids, which led to the final product, OxyContin, that was marketed according and following Arthur Sackler's strategies. Oxy became a huge success all over the United States, but it also led to many people getting addicted, crushing the pills, sniffing them as powder, or injecting oxy after mixing the powder with warm water. The public became soon aware of the horrible consequences, but the Sacklers did not acknowledge the threat and danger that their product posed. Instead, they blamed the victims and made horrifying announcements and released horrifying press statements blaming the victims as criminals, as culprits. Later, dozens, hundreds, and even thousands of lawsuits came over Purdue, and the company paid in total, I think more than $1 billion, hundreds of millions of dollars, more than $1 billion in order to get deals and settlements and, sort of tried to put everything under the carpet. Finally, a lot of institutions, museums, universities, and which profited from donations due to the Sackler family's philanthropy, distanced themselves. And let me name just one. The Louvre, the famous Louvre in Paris, France, had a Sackler wing, and this Sackler wing was renamed in 2019 because many of the institutions didn't want to be connected any longer with the name of the Sackler family, which otherwise had a lot of representations, not only in France, but primarily in the United States and even at Harvard University. Until this day, not a single person of the large Sackler family, there's a huge number of members of the Sackler family, and almost everyone is a physician. Not one person of the Sackler family had to stand trial personally for OxyContin, for the business with OxyContin. Although the aggressive marketing of the pill that was based on Arthur Sackler's strategy was one of the reasons why this could spread so fast, quickly, and wide. Patrick Radden Keefe's 560 pages book is an enormously well-researched work. It reads in a lot of ways like a true crime book. It reads like a novel. But it is a fact book based on facts, and it tells us a lot about the American dream, because the Sacklers, they come to America poor in 1913. Arthur Sackler is born to this Jewish immigrant, Isaac Sackler, who came with a ship from Europe. And they get rich and richer and richest. They become very famous as philanthropists. They give back. It's an American dream, but also an American nightmare, I would say. But it also tells us about American capitalism, which at many points is not controlled, like the market economy that we have in Europe is somehow, not really, but somehow controlled. And it also tells us about American greed. Like with guns, Keefe draws the comparison at one point in the book. It is not the dangerous product that leads to horrific consequences. It is always the buyer or user, according to the philosophy of those who make millions and billions. But this book also reveals that the controls of the FDA, the agency that is responsible for authorizing pill to reach out, to be able to distribute it, to be able to sell. So the state authority that guarantees the righteousness of this product, the FDA, and the connection to the Sackler family, to the industry, is a problem because it shows that there are connections between VIPs from these agencies and corporate business, and that can be very harmful. The book is also depicting the role of hundreds, if not thousands, of lawyers in the country, I think, that without a trace of any social conscience were and are willing to stand aside a cause that in its ultimate effect harm and kill many Americans. And philanthropy, which at least in the Sackler's family case seems to be a whitewashing the name and the actions of a family that was basically driven by greed and nothing else. This really was a 5-star read. I enjoyed it so much, and I thought many times when I listened to the audiobook, when I listened to the book, I thought many times this could be a television show like Breaking Bad or any others with 3, 4, 5 seasons, a lot of episodes, so many characters that are real characters that are presented in this, not only main characters like the Sackler family, but also lawyers, but also opponents, photographers, professors, and things like that. So many characters that could be really depicted very colorful, but there might be legal problems in doing a TV show on the Sacklers. I could imagine that. One character, though, is absolutely unforgettable, and this is the character of Martha West, who has, in reality, a different name. I think that's the only name that has been changed for the book. Martha West was the Sackler family lawyer Howard Udell's legal secretary, and at one point she is sick. She has pain, I think somewhere in her knee or in her back, and Howard Udell, her boss, who is the main lawyer, the principal lawyer of the family, says, "Oh, I can get you a prescription for Oxy." Martha West starts taking OxyContin, and very soon she gets addicted to the drug, and she has to take more, and she has to go to other drugs, and she takes cocaine, and then she's fired from her job, ruthlessly fired, because remember, the one who misuses is the criminal, is the culprit, and not the one who produces. It's a very important book. I don't have to say that, I guess. It's a very timely book. It's a brilliant research book, and it's very well written. It reads like a novel, as I said. In literary and crime fiction, the opioid crisis has led to a number of books. And if you know any books, please, about the opioid crisis, literary fiction, or even crime thrillers, please put them down below. Two of the books I want to mention here, two books that I've read. Stephen Markley's debut novel, Ohio, which came out in 2017 or 18, I guess. Brilliant novel about a high school reunion of people in their early 30s in 2013 in northeastern Ohio, where I think everyone, or mostly everyone, is affected by the opioid crisis. The addicts are everywhere in this novel. The second one is a thriller by one of my favorite crime authors, you know, who I mentioned, probably Michael Connelly, who wrote a Harry Bosch novel about the opioid crisis called Two Kinds of Truth, where Harry Bosch works for the San Fernando Police Department. He's already retired from the LAPD. He works as a volunteer for the San Fernando Police Department, and one day they are called to a pharmacy where both owners have been shot to death. And this case leads Bosch ultimately into the opioid crisis, into a world of addicts, into a world of pill mills and ruthless criminals and doctors who write prescription after prescription after prescription, which is also one consequence of Arthur Sackler's implementation of the strategy of marketing drugs to doctors, directly to doctors. This was my single review of a brilliant book, of a 5-star read. You need to read this, and please drop me a comment down below if you have read the book or if you have been affected of the opioid crisis and are willing and able to talk about it. I understand if that's not the case, of course. Thank you very much for watching this video, and watch out for the next one. Subscribe to the channel, and see you soon. Bye.